Next, we are going to be adding a few effects to our flower layer, the top flower to be specific. So we're going to go select the flower layer, click on the effects button down here, and we're going to select drop shadow. So for drop shadow, your settings will be, let me make sure I'm looking at the right settings first. Blend mode will stay as multiply. Let's see, our opacity will be at 60. Our distance will be 13. And our spread will be 9. And then don't click OK yet, because we're going to add more than one effect. So we have a drop shadow. And we are also going to add a satin effect. So click on satin, check mark that, select that to get to the settings. And for that one, we're going to select a fuchsia color, which is this like pinkish purple color. And the opacity will be 20%. The distance will be 22 pixels. And you're gonna, now you can click OK. And you'll notice that now there's two effects applied to the flower layer. And if I turn it off, you'll notice that it did make quite a bit of a difference. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add an adjustment layer, but to the other flower. So we're gonna scroll down, click on flower 2. And then up here, you're gonna, above the layers, there's an adjustment layer that we're gonna click on. And we need to look for the hue and saturation adjustment, which is this right here. Click on that. And that's creating a new layer above the flower 2. So again, this is called non-destructive editing or non-destructive adjustments because it's creating its own layer. And we have to follow specific properties. So hue is going to be 43. Saturation will be 19. And lightness will stay at 0. And you'll notice that there's a drastic difference in the color. So if I turn off this right here, you'll notice it made a huge difference. Not only did it change the flowers, but everything underneath, including the pineapple and clouds, it also affected, which we don't want. We only wanted to affect the flowers. So to do that, we're going to right click on our hue and saturation adjustment layer. So right click, and we're going to create clipping mask. So click on that. And what that did was it only applied that to the layer underneath, but not the rest. So if I hide this, see how it only changes the flower? That's what a clipping mask does. It is masking a specific area to only affect that area, nothing else, which will do more mask stuff later on in the future chapters. But for this, it's fairly simple. The mask will apply to, that's why there's like this little arrow. The mask is being applied only to the layer right below it. So what happens if I move this up here, then, I mean, it undoes that mask. So let me put it back. Click here, create clipping mask. There you go, redid it. Make sure you save, so Command S to save your progress. Another thing that I want to point out is we've been adding all these different effects to different layers. Just because you add an effect doesn't mean that it stays that way or that you can't adjust them. You can actually go back in if you double click on that effect. So if I wanted to change the drop shadow on this flower, if I double click, I can still go in there and adjust things. So whatever adjustments you make or whatever effects you make, they're not permanent. You can always delete them or alter them as you see fit.